Out of control spending, that's my mother-in-law's only problem. My husband thinks, just lend her the money. She has no other joys in life. But my savings are dwindling because of my mother-in-law. I can't go on like this. That's when I decided I had to make a sacrifice. My husband. My name is Betty, and I'm 28. John and I have been married for almost 2 years. We don't have kids yet, and we live a laid-back life, just the two of us. John is an office worker, and I primarily handle the household finances. He's a calm guy, never raises his voice or complains to me. His mom is basically a good person. When you hear the phrase mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, you might think of snide remarks and harassment, basically bullying the wife. But my mother-in-law doesn't dislike me or dump household chores on me. She's far from a bully. Still, she has one major flaw. Out of control spending. That's my mother-in-law's only Achilles heel. She can't resist shopping online, making some purchase every single day. Just the other day, she excitedly told me, "Look, Betty, I bought this. They say it's a great supplement for your skin." Again, another supplement. You got something last week too, didn't you? Oh, did I? But this one has great reviews. It was $100 for a month's supply, but it must be effective. $100 for just a month? Isn't that way too much? Well, that's why it must be effective. I have to start taking it right away. Mother-in-law? Her spending is just off the charts. $100 per month on supplements is coming for her. She subscribed to multiple similar products. Unused health gadgets clutter the house. Whenever she buys something, she calls me over to brag about her new purchases. And guess who has to clean up all the boxes and packaging? Me. My mother-in-law uses mail orders so much that she doesn't even know what she's buying. She orders so much that even she can't keep track. One day, while cleaning up the boxes, I found multiple duplicates of the same product. Some had already expired. That was the last straw. I had to confront her. Wait a minute. You have 6 of the same thing here. Oh! I remember buying this a while ago. How nostalgic. That's not the point. Half of them have already expired. What a waste. Expired? Oh my, I didn't notice. Well, nothing to do but throw them away. How many times has this happened? If you're not going to use it, stop buying the same stuff. Well, I can't help it. I buy based on inspiration at the moment. Every time I come here, there's more stuff. Even I can't keep track of what I've bought. This kind of spending was driving me to my wits' end. It's so frustrating. She's clearly wasting money and doesn't even realize it. What's more, my mother-in-law lives on a pension. Her husband passed away a few years ago, and now she lives alone. She even spent the small inheritance he left on online shopping. At first I thought, maybe she's just lonely. Lately, she's even started asking me for money. Betty, can we talk? What's going on? Well, money's tight this month. Again? I gave you money last month and the month before. Please, I won't make it until the next pension payment. That's because you buy everything online. Reconsider your spending habits before asking for money. Online shopping is my only joy. I'm at my wit's end with her, but I can't just leave her be. At least review your subscriptions and cancel what you don't need. It'll help. Are you trying to take away my hobbies and make me work in my old age? That's not what I mean. There's just too much unnecessary stuff in this house. Betty, don't be so harsh. How else will you understand? Even today, there's clearly more stuff than before. Well, that's... If you buy your money, it's gone. But there's no point in paying for something you won't use. I'll use it. I bought it because I liked it. How many times have you used that exercise equipment? Have you ever finished a bottle of supplements? Well, I'm fed up with her excuses. Let's be clear. You just enjoy the act of buying. That's why you don't use what you buy and run out of money. Please think about your limits. I understand. I kept trying to convince her, but nothing changed. I decided to consult my husband. John, remember when we talked about your mom's shopping habits? Yeah, she started watching shopping channels a lot after Dad passed away. What about it? She's spending recklessly. She's even started asking me for money. Is she really that strapped for cash? It's not about being strapped for cash. It's about her wasteful spending. What is waste? John may not know because he hasn't actually seen it, but it's really bad, isn't it? There are a lot of expired products lying around the room. My husband sighed. Oh, don't be so stingy, Betty. What? She's lonely since Dad died. If shopping makes her happy, let her be. Wait a minute. I don't mind if she enjoys herself, but do you understand the situation? She's asking me for money. She has no other joys in life. Just lend her some. I couldn't believe he was taking her side. On the contrary, it's implicitly saying, Mom isn't your fault. Just be kind to her. As expected, I was also angry at this. Enough is enough. I've tried talking to her multiple times and it's not working. That's why I'm talking to you, John. Do you get it? Then don't take away her only joy. That's not the point. You haven't been home recently, so you can say that. My husband sighed deeply. Look, I'm tired from work. I don't want to hear my wife badmouth my mom. Badmouth? How is this badmouthing? I'm concerned about her. Then help her out. What? If you're concerned, then lend her some money. Simple. That's not the point. You've always been stingy, Betty. I'm embarrassed to have such an arrogant wife. I felt a surge of indescribable anger. So you're saying her lifestyle is the priority? Fine. I have my own plans. I'll help her out, just as you wish. So I decided to put the plan I had in mind into action. The next day, as expected, she asked for money again. I headed to her house with an envelope containing $300. When I handed the envelope to my mother-in-law, she thanked me with a big smile. Wow, Betty, thank you. $300 is a lot. It's not from me this time. What do you mean? Look at the back of the envelope. Dear Mom, is this from John? Yes, he saved some money. Use it wisely. My plan was to give her the $300 that was supposed to be my husband's allowance for the next month. Of course, I hadn't told him yet. As soon as she took the envelope, she started making shopping calls. Look, Betty, this supplement has royal jelly. It must be effective. I couldn't help but laugh. Look, Betty, this supplement contains royal jelly. Isn't it really effective? I couldn't stop laughing as I watched her. That night, I reported the day's events to my husband. I went to your mom's today and gave her some money. Ah, you did. She must have been happy. Yes, she was thrilled. She said, "For me? From John?" Wait, what? Me? I gave her the $300 that was supposed to be your allowance for next month. What? Are you kidding me? You can't do that. You told me to lend her some money. That doesn't mean you can use my money. He acted as if I was the one at fault. I told my husband clearly. Then what? Should I use my savings to help her? After all the warnings I've given her, this is ridiculous. Calm down, Betty. Calm down? How can I be calm in this situation? I've been patient for so long. And you just say lend her some. If that's the case, you deal with it. Okay, I get it. If you ever take money from my wallet or account again, I won't forgive you. That's grounds for divorce. Handle your mom's issues yourself from now on. That was the first time I had yelled at my husband this much. I was so strong that even I am surprised. I was surprised at how surprised my husband was, and I just stood there. This was the first time I'd yelled at my husband like this. He was stunned. Are you listening? Do you understand? Yes, I understand. After that, I stopped going to her house and ignored any requests for money. Now she started targeting her kind son instead of his cold wife. Every day, calls from her flooded my husband's phone, and he looked increasingly worn out. John, I don't have enough money. What? Again? I just gave you $300. I spent it on royal jelly. How much did you spend? $300. You used all of it? My $300? It looked really effective. You have a pension. Use that. It's already gone. Please, I won't make it. Please, be more responsible with your spending. It seemed like he couldn't take it anymore. One day he said, I'm going to my parents' house, and left. My husband went to visit my in-laws after months just to complain to his mom. But what he found was an overwhelming amount of health gadgets and supplements. What is all this? The room is filled with boxes. Well, you see. No excuses. Get rid of this stuff now. You're taking away an old woman's only joy. I thought you were on my side. Ugh, I can't take this anymore. In the end, he had a huge fight with my mother-in-law and came back home. Seeing the situation for himself, he finally woke up and immediately apologized to me. Betty, I'm really sorry. I was wrong. What? Why, all of a sudden? I didn't realize how bad my mom was until I saw it for myself. You were right all along, Betty. If you understand, that's good, but what are we going to do about your mom? After talking to her today, I realize she won't listen. No matter how much we try to reason with her, she'll keep doing the same thing. Yeah, figures. We spent the night discussing what we could do. A few days later, we confronted his mom. We started organizing all the stuff his mother had bought. What are you doing? Stop it! This is expired, and this too. This one can be canceled. Good, let's cancel it right away. Don't touch! These are my treasures! Ignoring her pleas, we spent the day organizing and got rid of everything she had hoarded. Then John heads to a thrift store and sells off everything he can. We sold what we could and canceled all her subscriptions. Now, unless she orders something, nothing will be delivered to this house. After we were done, my husband handed her the money we got and said, Mom, we can't deal with you anymore. This is the last thing we can do for you. How could you? Selling my stuff and canceling my subscriptions? Enough. Your wastefulness is affecting us too. Realize what you're doing is throwing money down the drain. We're done. If you still want to waste money, go ahead." Realizing she couldn't rely on her son, she turned to me. "Please, Betty, don't abandon me." "I'm sorry." I looked at her calmly. "There's nothing more we can do for you. Use your pension wisely." "No, don't leave me." We left without looking back, while she broke down crying. A mother-in-law who was given up on by her son and his wife, and was told to quit. We've received several messages from her since, but we haven't responded. We have no idea how she's managing now, and frankly, we don't want to know. I feel sorry for her, but I absolutely don't want to be dragged into that kind of trouble anymore. We moved away from the house near the in-laws' house and started anew. My husband has been more receptive to my opinions lately. From now on, we won't have to worry about his mother. No more worrying about her during Christmas or summer vacations. All I wish for now is to live a peaceful life, just the two of us. That's all I want now.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.